You have you to complete, and there is no deal.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are commemorating the loss in this hour of Sly Stone, an iconic figure in American music, in liberation poetry, and his extraordinary life set the stage for an entire generation of activists and activism in the post-Martin Luther King Jr. era. Sly Stone, dead at age 82. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. What a sad day it is. We recognize that at age 82 years old, that our time is very limited, more yesterdays than tomorrow. But when a major tree in the forest falls, we have to stand and pay homage to the life that he was, to the life force that he was, to the energy that he was. Coming out of the late 60s and the early 70s, just no figure crossed over, even criticized by many African Americans because of his crossover appeal to different races around critical issues that mattered to all people. I remember in the early 70s, mid 70s, trying to go to Sly Stone concerts, but there were always this question whether Sly was going to show up. Get your tickets, get to the concert, wait 3 or 4 hours, no Sly Stone. Well, that was the case with Sly. But we still had a good time anyway, because I think not showing up sometimes became part of his routine. But he was a very, very special figure in our history. And he matters even in the context of the tragedy that is occurring on the streets of Los Angeles. How appropriate. Maybe it's divinely appropriate that we turn our attention to Sly Stone in the context of what is taking place, the unprecedented escalation of federal authority into the city of Los Angeles, into the state of California. In a way, we haven't seen this kind of behavior since 1965. We'll deal with that in this hour. But we've also not seen it since the Civil War. Usually when the federal government intervenes into a state, when the president seeks to enforce law, calls in the National Guard, it has usually been on the side of the community with the moral high ground. The moral high ground in the 60s was the way in which Martin Luther King Jr. conducted himself. But now we have a new generation that knew not the king. Before the program, I was reflecting upon the fact that Rosa Parks came to prominence because of planning. Selma to Montgomery was a planned effort. The March Against Fear, a planned effort. Martin Luther King Jr.'s last demonstration, his second return to Memphis. The first return, when he went there to stand with the sanitation workers, there was no planning, and it resulted in chaos. Dr. King came back to Memphis on April 3rd, April 4th to prove that a planned nonviolent march could work in Memphis, Tennessee, in the context of the sanitation workers. He lost his life in that context. I make the distinction between planned marches to get the president's attention, to get the nation's consciousness, to maintain the moral high ground, and we just showed up and got mad as hell and ran through Target. Tore up a community, burnt cars, set things on fire because we were just having a good old time in downtown Chicago, on the west side, in Atlanta, in New York, in Detroit, in Los Angeles. We burned down our own communities, and then it spread. Some of us ran through so many grocery stores. Many of those grocery stores never came back to our communities, and they became deserts. The way in which we conduct ourselves when our human rights are violated matters in this process. When we come forward, my very special guest will be Javon Moore. He is a pastor here in Chicago because why? He knows what's next. It's coming to Chicago. It's coming to Atlanta. It's coming to Detroit. It starts in LA, and Donald Trump is testing the waters to see what the reaction is going to be across the country. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to turn our attention to the crisis on the ground in Los Angeles when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Pastor and Mrs. William Sachs Epps on their retirement from stewardship at the historic Second Baptist Church. Dr. Epps has faithfully served Second Baptist as its senior pastor for 37 years. What a legacy of love and leadership. Pastor and Mrs. Epps will be honored at a luncheon on Saturday, July 26, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Sheraton Universal Hotel in Universal City, and you're invited to attend. Noted scholar Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is the keynote speaker. For ticket information, please contact epsretirement@gmail.com or call 213-399-2103. That's epsretirement@gmail.com or call 213-399-2103. To Pastor Epps and First Lady Epps, congratulations from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent. And the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key.
My privacy.
You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside.
Don't say a thing.
Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare, and I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare or you'll pay nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-857-8866. 800-857-8866. 800-857-8866.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In this hour, we are praying for the family of Sly Stone. We are also praying for Los Angeles and our nation. Our special guest today is a pastor, resilient and dedicated community leader, and connector with over 10 years of experience working with organizations to execute strategic visions and goals. He's demonstrated an ability and commitment to build relationships and work collaboratively with multiple stakeholders, including community organizations, government agencies, and business owners. Pastor Javon Moore, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you so much for having me. So glad
Pastor,
to be on.
just before I engage you in our discourse, I want to make a point and then play a quick clip. When I see Donald Trump, let me be philosophical for a moment. Donald Trump believes that the means justify the ends. He doesn't want justice. He wants quiet. He will do whatever he can do to get quiet. He will use the means available to get what his little mind wants. Quiet. Everybody go back to the way it was. Be nice. Say kind things about me. Dr. King was fundamentally different. Again, still very philosophical right here. Dr. King said, the end that we seek is pre-existent in the means, meaning that the means we choose, the way in which we conduct ourselves, matters to the outcome. If we want to love our neighbors as ourselves, then we're going to have to take some blows from them. People are going to spit on us. They're going to call us names. They're going to do all kinds of things to us. But we're going to resist. They ask the question all of the time whenever these riots occur, who are the agent provocateurs? Who are the people who are disruptive? Who are the locals they're not the locals, they're from the outside? That's not true. It's anyone who hasn't been through training. It's anyone who doesn't understand that Selma to Montgomery was planned, that Rosa Parks was planned, that the March Against Fear was planned, that the March on Washington was planned. We ain't just show up hollering. We planned, and we anticipated that we might be attacked by the National Guard. We might be attacked by the forces of segregation. And in that, because we anticipated it, when the movie cameras started running and they began recording it, Javon, that generation of Americans prepared themselves to take the blows. And when they took the blows, they attained the moral high ground. The entire country and the world, they said, is watching. Your initial thoughts, Pastor Moore, about what's taking place on the ground in Los Angeles?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, right now, I believe what we are seeing is almost a repeat, potentially, of what we saw with the George Floyd protests, the civil unrest that occurred in 2020. And you have the president sending the National Guard in to bring down or to quell the civil unrest. And I think what we're seeing now, unfortunately, is that this has the potential, as you had alluded to earlier, to have frequency and shockwaves throughout the nation and other cities. And it is an attempt to try to bring down anybody who tries to speak ill against the president or his agenda, and really just disrupt, and then come back and say, I put it all together and I fixed everything up.
You know, Reverend Moore, I was thinking that when I reflect upon Dr. King's last work, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, that my generation's leaving. We have more yesterdays than we do tomorrows. You're about to inherit something, given your extraordinary leadership and the faith that I have in you and that people across the country are gaining in you. The question still remains, is your generation prepared that knew not the king? I think that's biblical scripture somewhere. There's a generation that comes that knew not the king. There's, of course, a generation that came that knew not Pharaoh, but they knew not the king. And they knew not our Dr. King. Is there any concern that some of the mistakes that they might repeat during these moments of civil unrest, direct protest, I like to call them just our basic First Amendment activity without the escalation, that something could be lost in terms of the end that we seek?
For sure. When our engagement is seen as not just disruptive, but destructive, we end up losing, I believe, that ability to be able to say, to have right on our side in some instances. Now, again, we are reminded that protesting and speaking out is a sign of those who are unheard, those who have felt disenfranchised. And I think what we end up seeing are those whose voices feel as if that they haven't been heard. And so I think what might need to be clear is for us as a communities to ensure that we are hearing one another. And in hearing one another, taking our fight, taking our action, taking our opposition, and doing what it is that we can do to ensure that we're being heard regardless of wherever we are, wherever this fight may bring us.
I'm afraid that this fight is coming to every door in America. We can sit back and watch it on television and say, hey, it's happening in Los Angeles. But the order that the president signed to allow 2,000 National Guardsmen on the ground in Southern California, the order to federalize the troops, there seems to be no specific mention of Los Angeles, which means should he move further, he's really testing the ground to these blue states and in these blue cities in a way that would punish the more than 50 million Americans, the more than half of all Americans who did not vote for him in the last election. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I mean, and this even goes beyond those that did not vote for him, but even those that did not vote at all. This is really a call and really a fight and a blow against those who are really trying to do what I believe is the work of, at least if we're looking at this as it pertains to immigration, this particular issue of immigration, it's a work of justice. And wholeheartedly, I believe one of the challenges that I think we're facing right now is almost this feeling of apathy. I believe with our younger generations of millennials and Gen Z, and it's not just pertaining to fighting injustice or protesting and things like that, but there is unfortunately a general feeling of apathy that is circulating and going throughout our generations. And so I think one of the things that is probably key is really holding on to the fight of our elders like you, your father, Dr. King, and so many others who have fought, and utilizing their stories, utilizing their experience to help fuel us for the fights that are ahead.
I almost fell out of my chair when you called me an elder. Let me go to my producer to play this clip. My son calls me,
There's
and
a
his friend
Freudian
called me
slip.
Unc. I'm like, Unc. We're going to a clip.
President Trump is defending his response to the Los Angeles protests, calling the demonstrators, quote, insurrectionists. He made those comments on Truth Social last night, saying Governor Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass should apologize for the, quote, horrible job they have done. But earlier, when speaking to reporters, Trump stopped short of saying the protests constituted an insurrection.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
As far as we know, there's only about 300 of the National Guard, California National Guard troops who are actually on scene. There are at least 3 different locations. But remember, this authorization is to federalize up to 2,000. These are California National Guard troops who are being used here. But we heard Jacob earlier talk about them being under Title X authority. What that means is they are essentially federalized. They are under the authority of the federal government. They're paid by them. They get benefits under the federal government while they're serving. And they are also under the same restrictions that federal troops face when they are operating in the United States. Why that's so critical in this case here is because if you have a National Guard soldier who is under California law or who's under California state activation, that means that they are answering to and under the authority of the governor, Governor Newsom, who we've heard from earlier in the show already. Now, in that capacity, they have some ability to conduct law enforcement missions, to support the local law enforcement, but they have a little bit more authority with actually taking on or conducting law enforcement missions. Once those troops are federalized, that goes away. They can still support the LAPD and they can support the ICE agents who are there, but they cannot make arrests. What's the most unique part about this is the president doing it despite the governor saying, the governor not asking for these troops, but specifically saying that he doesn't want the troops to be there. Now, the Marines here, 500 are now under or on a hot standby. They have to be ready to go very quickly. What's really critical about them is they will also be federalized. That makes sense. They are active duty. The question everyone should be asking here, though, Mika, is are they actually trained for any of the kinds of law enforcement or the sorts of functions that they could be called upon to do here? That's one of the questions we've been asking.
Does your generation understand what it means to not nonviolently engage this kind of protest in light of the fact that there is a new factor in the game, and that is the federalization, not of law enforcement, but the federalization of troops? And presidents have the power to issue shoot to kill orders. And I wouldn't put anything past this guy. Pastor Moore?
Yeah, I think that's a really deep question I haven't really thought about. Just the preparation that millennials, Gen Z, even some Gen Xers have not really seen this happen within our lifetime of potentially our government being militarized against us in a way that goes beyond giving local law enforcement money and stuff like that to purchase militarized equipment. But I'm really not sure. I really would question if we are prepared for that, because this is something that we haven't seen. If I recall correctly, federal troops, I'm sorry, not federal troops, but like the National Guard being utilized in instances like this, and I think you alluded to this earlier, it happened in instances where they were coming on the side of the people and not necessarily on the side of the state government, particularly in instances where the governor did not want them to, or there was no collaboration with the governor of those states. And this happened in Mississippi and Alabama, I believe.
I think in Little Rock as well.
Little Rock, yes.
Ruby Ridges.
Yes. And so now what we are seeing is this event happening before our eyes, where there is no coordination locally. And in addition to that, there is no coordination from a moral or a theological type of aspect with this. And if there is any sort, I would grossly question the basis of one's theology for it and pertaining to that.
I'm deeply, I join you in that moral indignation, and I can't say enough about the moral high ground. Do we cede the moral high ground when we burn cars? Do we cede the moral high ground when I don't believe anyone's spitting on law enforcement officers. I think most Americans have profound respect for law enforcement officers. I do think that some of them are kind of close when someone's shouting at them. And I do think that there's a mist that flows when someone is in your space talking garbage. And yes, it can be determined to be that. Give law enforcement officers the appropriate space, even as you fight for your First Amendment, God-given, inalienable rights, but give them that space. And don't give them an excuse to lock you up and give you a record and turn you into a felon the rest of your life, because they are not going to pardon you when you touch that law enforcement officer. You are going to be a felon the rest of your life. You're not a January 6th defendant. Now, mind you, we are the insurrectionists now, according to Donald Trump. But the people who ran through the Capitol of the United States to undermine an American election are pardoned defendants, not insurrectionists. Wow. Look at how the tables are turned. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Pastor Moore is going to share more with us about what this generation needs to do. And I'm going to ask him to start thinking through right now in our final segment, a word of hope for young people and all who are listening in Los Angeles as the nation continues to pray for you. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. California is suing the Trump administration over what it calls an unlawful National Guard deployment to Los Angeles.
These images are unacceptable. These kids on the car, the folks that are taking advantage of this, these aren't peaceful protesters, a lot of these folks.
Governor Newsom blames President Trump for escalating protests, many tied to racial justice. State Attorney General Rob Bonta says Trump is fueling chaos for political gain. Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore and other Democratic governors are calling President Trump's activation of the National Guard in LA an alarming abuse of power. They say bypassing state authority is dangerous. And memorial services for former Congressman Charles Rangel, who is Black, begin today in Harlem. He'll lie in repose at St. Aloysius Church, where he once served as an altar boy. A private viewing at City Hall is set for Wednesday, followed by a public ceremony Thursday and a funeral Friday at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Rangel died on Memorial Day at 94. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA Finals is tied up at 1-1. The Oklahoma City Thunder rebounded from a traumatic loss in Game 1 with a 123-107 win over the Indiana Pacers. Another magnificent game from NBA MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 34 points and 8 assists. SGA has 72 points in the first two games in the finals. That's the highest two-game total in NBA history for a player competing in his first finals. The next two games are in Indianapolis. Game 3 is Wednesday night. The Dodgers beat St. Louis Sunday 7-3. They start a 3-game series tonight in San Diego. The Angels lost at home to Seattle 3-2. Angels batters struck out 18 times. The Angels start a 3-game series tonight at home against Oakland. UCLA's baseball team is in the College World Series for the first time since 2013. The Bruins beat Texas San Antonio 7-0 to win the LA Super Regional. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kumlater Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other Black influencers in the climate and health fields, as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews.
Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe.
Over the years, Lionel has catered most major Black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest, Pastor Javon Moore, has extensive experience working with communities and youth, coaching and mentoring, developing curriculums, informing policy and strategic planning, adept at leading teams in fast-paced environments, ability to create, coordinate, and manage multiple projects. He is that guy. Reminds me of James Orange. Reminds me of Jim Lawson. Reminds me of Julian Bond and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, James Bevels. And I'm going to say it one more time before I bring the pastor back in here. Rosa Parks was planned. Selma to Montgomery was planned. The Greensboro lunch counter sit-in with the 4 students was planned. The March on Washington was planned. Sanitation workers. Dr. King came back a second time because he wasn't happy with the planning. The first time resulted in chaos, not community. He came back a second time where he was assassinated to make sure that he could convince people we can do this nonviolently. Power is the ability to achieve purpose. Power is the ability to achieve purpose. Our purpose is community. Pastor Moore, I am deeply concerned as what is starting in LA, the sentiment that is erupting within our communities in Detroit, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in New York, around the country. This reaction to authoritarianism is laying the foundation, in my opinion, for spontaneous reaction without planning. And that's, at 60 years old, what I have to give your generation. Spontaneous reaction, not thoughtful response, that keeps the moral high ground. They protected the moral high ground. What do we have to do to train a new generation of activists to maintain the moral high ground? I think you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I think
Not
one
a
of the
problem,
things, you know, I should be down with and understanding all of that because of having grown up with technology. But anyway, I think one of the things that is missing, at least in our generation today, and it's not just an age, but just our world today and our country today, is the placement that the Black church has played, the placement that the church has played in actions of unrest, or not even unrest, but actions of engagement or civil disobedience. The church has been very present. The faith community as a whole was very present. When Rosa Parks sat on that bus, that was planned, but also the faith community was present. When Dr. King was marching, whether it was in Selma, whether it was in DC, whether it was in Chicago or Memphis or any of these other cities, it was planned, but also the faith community was present. And one of the challenges that I see just even today is the way that our world is distancing itself from the faith community. And it's not just Christians, but just faith, period. And I think it's important for those who are faithful, whether Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, whatever your faith community is to rely upon the tenets that you're taught. And most of them, it involves and evolves around this idea of how we treat others, this idea of how we show up for others. And I think that has to be central and integral to us, because if we're not present in it, we'll see what's happening even more. And I think
you brought up the most important point of the whole show, and that is that even when we engaged in that activity, at least this is what I just heard you say, there are moral constraints and precepts that we bring to our action. We ain't just out here doing something. We ain't just out here to burn something. We're like, no, we're trying to convince you, because what? We are people of faith, and we are trying to activate our faith in the context of our constitutional rights. That's brilliant, Pastor Moore.
Yeah, and I think probably where my mind was going was wondering, because when I look at protests today, and for the most part, many of those who are going out, who are going to protest, are doing so in a nonviolent way. They're doing so in a peaceful way, and there are only a few actors that the camera is on in many of these instances. And so I really wonder, just historically, what was done in the 1960s for those actors who would come into engagements with negativity and thoughts of destruction. And so what would happen to those individuals who would
We knew who they were.
to
We knew who they were. And I'm going to play a clip because my producer's signaling to play a clip, but we knew who they were because we had been through training. When he shows up hollering, we can turn to our allies and law enforcement and say, he's not like us. He's not like us. He's not like us. He's the problem. We're not. We are here to do it our way. Let me play this clip from my producer.
We're going to force immigration law. We've been honest about that from day one, especially in sanctuary cities where we can't get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. They release him to the street. Well, we got to go to the street and find him. And when we find him, many times they're with others. Others are in the United States illegally, may not be a criminal target, but guess what? If ICE is there arresting that bad guy and other aliens are there, we're going to arrest them. That's what sanctuary cities get. They put us in the neighborhood. They force us in the neighborhood. This is what happens.
Well, that sort of action there you're describing has met with a lot of pushback from local officials, the mayor of Los Angeles, and the governor, who's also very critical of the National Guard being deployed, suggesting that's provoking some of these clashes. It's it is a rarely used maneuver by the president of the United States to deploy National Guard members like this over the objections of the governor to the city streets. So, Mr. Holman, were you part of the decision-making process to deploy the National Guard? What is your response to those in that state who say they're only making the situation worse?
Then they should have taken action the last 2 days while the city burned. I mean, he waited over 2 days for all this violence to say he had an unlawful assembly. I mean, I was there when 1,000 protesters were surrounding the federal building, breaching that federal building.
Arrested or custody arrested in Los Angeles right now. Is it an emergency? Is it Fox News just calling it the LA riots? Is it a peaceful protest? What's happening? What are you seeing? Well, I mean, look, Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard in a legal act, in a moral act, an unconstitutional act. And we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow. I was going to ask you that. Sorry to interrupt you, but Governor, so that's news. If you're going to sue the administration, tell me a little bit about it. Give us a preview of this lawsuit. Well, under his executive order, it specifically notes, and under what the DOD did, is they had to coordinate with the governor of the state. They never coordinate with the governor of the state. I've worked with the National Guard. We've deployed the National.
So I just want to say this, Pastor, because in this moment, when you were talking about the church and the absence of the church, the idea that we call these cities sanctuary cities was they are protected. They are protected by God. They're protected by the idea of our sense of fairness, our sense of humanity. So we grabbed language from the church and we brought it into this process. And Donald Trump is saying, I don't care about the church's methodology. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Pastor Javon Moore is going to answer that question, give us some more thoughts, and close us on a word of hope.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed.
May 6th was World Asthma Day, and it's a critical time to raise awareness about your asthma. Did you know that Black Americans are approximately 5 times more likely than white Americans to visit the emergency department due to their asthma? Managing your asthma is possible with regular checkups, avoiding known triggers, using prescribed medications correctly, and creating an asthma action plan with your healthcare professional. An action plan is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medications to take to help control your asthma when you're having a hard time breathing or having an asthma attack. Stay aware. Have a plan because your health matters. For more tips and resources on managing your asthma, visit luma-edu.com. luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember, no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Coverage varies by plan. View contract and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com. Do you own a 2005 or newer vehicle with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all? With the cost of living on the rise, Endurance is now offering a low-cost vehicle coverage plan designed to save you thousands off costly vehicle repairs. Get your vehicle protected under this coverage and have all future covered auto repairs paid directly to the repair shop for you. Roadside service, towing, and rental coverage are included. For your free quote, call 800-689-5978. 800-689-5978.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our KBLA 1580 4th anniversary events are fast approaching. All seating for our 4 events are getting very tight. You can register at kbla1580.com, our website. Let me encourage you to do so immediately because we are running out of space. It's our 4th anniversary and we want to celebrate it with you. We're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire, grocery store chain, or restaurants. We're grateful for whatever it is that you bring to the event. Again, our event is fast approaching. My very special guest is Pastor Javon Moore, community organizer par excellence, and he has been an outstanding guest. Pastor Moore, welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
Those 2 clips that we saw just before the break were Mr. Holman, who, in a real sense, looks like he's on the hunt. In fact, they are on the hunt. When he meets with ICE agents before they go on these raids, he says to the men, "Happy hunting." He refers to the urban areas that they're hunting in as jungles. So these men are on the hunt in jungles, looking for immigrants. They've dehumanized them. I think in the past, Pastor Moore, we would have stood around a wall, taken our knees, and forced ICE agents to step over us to get to an immigrant. That requires training and planning and high moral high ground when we are arrested, particularly our pastors, when they are arrested for standing up for this truth. Your thoughts on the difference between then and now?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges that we see today is that our faith community isn't as in front. I really commend the work of Pastor Jamal Bryant as it pertains to the work that he and others are leading with the Target fast and the protest against Target and now Dollar General. And I think taking from that, I think applying it to this, that there needs to be a presence of the faith community there. Right before we went to break, you mentioned the term sanctuary cities. That idea of cities being sanctuary cities came from back in the 1980s, early 1980s, I believe. There were Latin persons fleeing civil unrest in their home countries. I think of Guatemala and another Central American country, and coming to the U.S. And there were churches before the cities. There were churches that allowed themselves to be sanctuaries for those who were fleeing and escaping. And so I think what at least our conversation is birthing out is this idea that our faith communities have to be part of this. We cannot necessarily sit on the same side as those, or if we're, some people are getting invited to the White House for meetings and getting invited to the White House to talk about other things, but it is important for us to see that this is our opportunity to challenge and to stand against government. I mean, sure, it must be nice to be able to get invited to the White House, but at what cost? At what cost to the people that we are called to serve, that we are called to minister to, and at the cost of the people that I believe that Jesus died for, even the people that you don't always agree with.
When I was growing up, you couldn't find a bishop in the Baptist church. There's no such thing as a Baptist bishop. Now we got lots of bishops. We got more bishops than we do churches. So we should put on our full bishop garments, go to a protest, let everybody know you're the bishop, and stand between the crowd and the government. Stand between people who are throwing rocks and people who are condemning innocent people to the cross. It seems that our faith is right there at that crossroads. Pastor, I can imagine ministers as Dr. You know what? We didn't wear masks in the 60s and 70s. We wanted people to know exactly who we were and what we were standing for. And we risked life, limb, our reputations, all of that to be known for what we stood for. And when you look back on it 50 years ago or 60 years ago, some of those civil rights activists with booking numbers and photographs, these are the greatest moments in their entire lives because of the way they conducted themselves. Pastor Moore, we only have a few more minutes. Share with us a word of hope.
Sure. So I'm reminded of former Congressman, the late Congressman John Lewis, who encouraged for generations even beyond him to get into good trouble. There will be moments and opportunities for all of us that will come up in our lives and in our lifetime. And I believe that what we are living in, particularly for people of faith, and even those who may be skeptical or curious of faith, this is our opportunity. This is our moment. Use this theological and Greek term. This is our kairos moment, God ordained moment, I believe, to be able to stand up and stand against oppression, stand up against systems of inequality. Because in the words of Dr. James Cone, it is God who is on the side of the oppressed. And if we, the faith community, if those who are part of the faith community, whether you're pastor, preacher, bishop, apostle, whatever title you may have, or you're just a lay member, it's important for you to realize that this is all our opportunity to jump in into the fight. One of the things I believe that is important is to not forget what the biblical principles, or at least for me, the biblical principles that we stand on. And what comes to mind, one is I think about what God gave to the writer Habakkuk, and told him to write a vision, make it plain. And here's the part: though it may take a while, wait for it. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. But what was the vision that he was tasked with writing? This encouragement of hope for people that there was coming a king, a Messiah that would come to shake up the world, in essence. And so I believe it is important for us where we are today not to lose hope, not to lose our credibility, to continue as we go forward, marching with moral clarity, pray without quitting, organize like the resurrection, like our resurrection and the resurrection of our hope and our freedom is at hand and real. And so my prayers are for all of our governors. My prayers are for the people of Los Angeles and the people of all of our sanctuary cities, Chicago, New York, and others that are out fighting and doing work and doing the work well.
Let me just add this. That was so beautiful. In this concluding moment, something I borrow from the blue. Whatever side of the fence you find yourselves on, everyone goes home tonight. Whatever the nature of the struggle. Law enforcement, we want you to go home tonight. Protesters, we want you to go home tonight. We can pick up the disagreement tomorrow, but every night, we all get to go home. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. My very special guest has been Pastor Javon Moore. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're praying for you, LA. See you guys next
KBLA
week.
1580 Santa Monica.